So let me start, inshallah. There's a lot to cover under Qurbani in the light of amazing sacrifices of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It comes from Ibrahim alayhi salam's obedience to Allah. And basically, I wanted to talk about the significance of Qurbani. And it's something that I prepared last year, but I totally forgot about it. So I was holding a similar talim. Took me 2 halakas of similar length in Bengali with another group that I have. And I thought to myself, we were doing a halka on protection against our enemies after Ramadan. And the last part we were in, or we are in, is acquiring beautiful character. We talked about a few beautiful characters, and in the last 2 halakas, we talked about, actually last 3 halakas, we talked about forgiveness, and then last 2 halakas were on forbearance. Forbearance, focusing on Allah Ta'ala's quality as Halim, and then forbearance, focusing on Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's quality as Halim. And today I was supposed to talk about tawakkul and a few other things early this week. So I was about to prepare, and then I thought, no, I should talk about Qurbani, significance of Qurbani, as I talked in my in a Bengali halaka. I thought that how will I translate from Bengali to English? Because the way I wrote in Bengali eloquently, I would say, I felt good about it. I don't have time to translate, and then I cannot translate spontaneously, and then impromptu, and bring that eloquence. And the last evening, I thought, no, I will translate everything, but what time it takes. And by stroke of miracle, I found that I had done the translation last year. I totally forgot. But if I had known about it or realized, I would have started last week, because it takes 2 halakas. So I have to squeeze that into 1 halaka. So what I will do is the first part contains 3 sacrifices of Ibrahim alayhi salam in carrying out the commandments of Allah. So I will shorten those, and then I will talk mostly about the significance of Qurbani in the second part. And then we after prayer, especially for Farooq Amin, and we will also pray for all our near and dear ones whom we lost. Then we will remember Farooq Amin, whoever wants to take part, starting with me. So the sacrifices of Ibrahim alayhi salam, is central to the understanding of the spirit of Islam. We don't get to talk about much about this aspect, and therefore we don't understand the spirit of Islam. And we do not realize that the foundation, the bunyad, bhitti of Islam is sacrifice. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his companions made sacrifice. Untold sacrifice. We cannot even imagine. It wasn't needed, because Allah Ta'ala, on one hand, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would pray, and on the other hand, Allah Ta'ala would spread deen. But that's not how deen spread. It spread through toil and blood and giving life and enduring torture. So the spirit of sacrifice is something that we need to understand. And that spirit of sacrifice is manifested most of all in the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he made many sacrifices, of which 3 stand out in particular in the annals of mankind. One is that he was put in the fire, and Allah Ta'ala protected him. And he was put in fire because he wanted to establish the deen of Allah as a prophet. That was his responsibility. And the other is he left his wife and baby son in the desert of Makkah. And the third is he carried out the command of Allah Ta'ala to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam. So the first one, what he did was he was calling people. They refused to listen to him. And one day, as you know, he is just reminding, because most Muslims know, especially educated Muslims, he found an opportunity when people had gone for a fair, a celebration outside the habitation, the township. And he found an opportunity, so he destroyed all the idols and left the chief idol undestroyed, and put the axe on its shoulders. So when people came, they found the idols were all gone. And it was such a grief for them. Who did it? Who could do such evil? And you were here. You must have done it. He said. He said, ask the chief idol. He must have done it. And the axe is on him. And it was a manifest lie. It was an open lie, because people knew, everybody knows that idols cannot destroy anything. Neither can they help nor hurt. And that is what he wanted to hear from them. So he told a manifest lie. And they responded, you know very well that idols cannot do anything. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam took the opportunity and said, and if they cannot harm you or hurt you, then why do you worship them? So that was the point he wanted to make. But all idol worshippers of the world to come. And then, that was not going to assuage them. And so they collected firewood. The king ordered that everybody was to collect firewood, and Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown in the firewood. I'm making it very short, very brief. You can have one halqa on this. And he was put in the firewood. The point is that Ibrahim alayhi salam knew that they would take action, and he offered himself as sacrifice for the sake of Allah. The second point is he did not seek help from creation, neither from Jibril alayhi salam, who came to help him. And because Ibrahim alayhi salam did not seek the help of creation, he basically said that if Allah is pleased with me, putting me in fire, is Allah is pleased seeing me burnt in fire, I'm pleased on Allah. I'm not going to seek help from you. He did not mention that, but that's basically what he meant, meaning Jibril alayhi salam. And Allah Ta'ala was so pleased with his response that Allah did not use creation to help him. He could have used any of his powers to destroy the fire. Earth, water, air, meaning earthquake, rain, or tidal wave, or the angels. He could have used anything, or cyclone. He didn't use anything. He simply said, "Oh fire, be cool on Ibrahim and safe for him," because too much coolness might bother him. So he said, "Be safe on Ibrahim." If Allah would have said, as scholars say, be cool, oh fire, be cool, then fire would not have done the job of cooking for us until the day of judgment. If Allah would have said, be cool, Allah said, be cool on Ibrahim and save for him. So the lesson we learn from this is that if we can learn to rely on Allah Ta'ala in the worst of circumstances, He can bring the best of outcome. Ibrahim alayhi salam is reported to have said later that those were my best days when I was in the fire. Allah Ta'ala did not order the fire to be extinguished, nor did He destroy the fire. He let the fire burn, but the fire could not touch his hair. And Allah Ta'ala gave him the best time of his life inside fire, which only Allah can do. So in our case, if we fall into any distressing situation and the worst of situation, and nothing can be worse than fire, if we can learn to rely on Allah Ta'ala, that same Allah is still there, will forever be there. He can still bring the best of outcome in the worst of situation. And the other lesson, obviously, is that creation does not have any power of its own. The second sacrifice he made was he left his son as per the order of Allah. Go and leave your wife and son in that desert of Arabia. So he was told the exact spot. And he left. He didn't ask Allah Ta'ala, oh Allah, what is going to happen to my family? Allah Ta'ala even ordered him not to tell them that he is leaving them. No person, no water, left some dates and water in a water skin. He turned homeward, and his wife ran after him and said, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving us? Why are you leaving us? And he was ordered not to talk to them. And she said, are you leaving us based on the commandment of Allah Ta'ala? He nodded his head. He was not commanded not to do that. And she said, if Allah commanded, He will protect us. He will protect us. She said, then He will not neglect us. We will not perish. And this is artist's rendering of a place 3,000-4,000 years ago. Allah knows best. And if we are asked to leave our family somewhere near here, in a place like this, what we would do? Is Allah mad? Allah pagol hoye geche naki? Allah ekta hukumer মানে ছোটখাটো হুকুম তো আমরা মানে there are people who make obnoxious comments. Ibrahim alayhi salam did not. He left them to be sacrificed. He carried out Allah's order and left them near the Kaaba, having full faith that Allah would take care of them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith of Bukhari, and Allah saved them and gave them provisions from where they could not imagine. And I'm not getting into the story. It's a beautiful story. And one halakha on this easily. Help, and what is the lesson? That help from Allah comes from reliance on Allah. From reliance on Allah. And the third one is, and this is when Ibrahim alayhi salam had built the Kaaba on the order of Allah Ta'ala, and Ismail alayhi salam, when he grew up, Ismail alayhi salam, and people had, some people came to the spot because of the Zamzam. Birds fly on water. So people saw, some people were going nearby, that there were birds in a particular place, and they thought there must be water. They came here. So there was trade between Hajira and this tribe. We will give you food and you will give us water. Allah Ta'ala can provide and preserve in the most unlikely circumstance from sources we cannot imagine. And sacrificing Ismail alayhi salam, again, I have to make it short because I want to talk about the significance of Qurbani. That is the main thrust, the main focus. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was in his teens, possibly around 20 plus minus, and Allah Ta'ala shows him in dream to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam. He goes to Makkah. He was not staying in Makkah. He would come and go. He goes to Makkah and took Ismail alayhi salam with him. Did not tell his wife. Wife will start crying. Will not Allah possibly will not allow him to carry out the order of Allah Ta'ala. So in dream, he was ordered to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a hadith of Bukhari, dreams of prophets are divine revelations. Divine revelations. So it's basically Ibrahim alayhi salam hastened to be obedient to Allah. He did not delay. Allah ki pagol hoye geche je amar cheleke Qurbani korte bolche. No thought like that even entered his head. And then instead of forcing his son to comply with the order, he informed him first of what he was ordered to do and asked his son what he thought. What do you think about this? Allah Ta'ala has ordered me to do this. Surah Safat. Now, what is the reply of the son? The obedient son immensely pleased his father when he said, "Oh, my father, do as you are ordered, for you will find me, if Allah wills, among those who are patient. Inshallahu masabirin. You will find me, if Allah wills, among those who are patient." And what is Islam? Shaitan has focused our attention about the meaning of Islam from submission to peace. Islam means peace. Yes, both are meanings of Islam, but we don't say Islam means submission. I'm not meaning you in particular. I'm meaning the Muslims in general. Do not even have the understanding that Islam means submission and peace through submission. And Ismail alayhi salam embodied the highest form of submission. And so he went on to sacrifice Ismail alayhi salam. And I heard from scholars that Ismail alayhi salam, he said, "Oh, father, put a strip of cloth on your eyes, because you will when you see me, when you are sacrificing and you see my face, you may not be able to carry out the order of Allah. So put piece of cloth on your eyes." Ismail alayhi salam did that, and Ibrahim alayhi salam did that, and Ismail alayhi salam was turned backwards, and Ibrahim alayhi salam tried to use his knife on his the back of his neck, and the knife did not work. And Allah Ta'ala wanted to see until the last moment to show us that he meant to carry out the order. It's not that Ibrahim alayhi salam thought that it is a dream and I will put Ismail alayhi salam and Allah Ta'ala will put an animal in place of Ismail alayhi salam and the animal will be slaughtered. No, that was not in his mind. What was in his mind is that I'm going to sacrifice my son because Allah Ta'ala ordered it, and he did not question the rationale of the order. And then a call came from Allah saying, "Oh, Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the dream you saw." It was Surah number 37. And Allah said, this was indeed a clear and apparent trial, test. Allah said, we ransomed, redeemed him, Ismail alayhi salam, with a mighty sacrifice. Allah Ta'ala replaced his son with what pleased him. Majority of scholars opine that the sacrifice was a white sheep with big eyes and horns. Significance of Qurbani. Each one of these three sacrifices, and there was another one that or others that I could add, but then each one is worth one halakha. Hopefully, we'll talk about these someday, inshallah. So, what is the significance of Qurbani? Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hajira, Bibi Hajira, we say in Bengalis. Ismail alayhi salam made utmost sacrifice of Qurbani, what we call today Qurbani. It's not that he made that one Qurbani of his son. I just want to give you a sampling of his couple of his other sacrifices. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the descendant of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The creed of Ibrahim alayhi salam was al-Islam. His spirit was sacrificed. And so was the spirit of Hajira and Ismail alayhi salam. And that's the spirit of Islam. The foundation of Makkah is the sacrifice of all three. They came and they settled in, they were left in Makkah, and Makkah was founded. You know, there's a story that after he built I heard from scholars that after he built the Kaaba, Allah Ta'ala ordered him to give azan. What sort of azan that was, Allah knows best. And he said, oh Allah, who's going to hear me if I give azan in this wilderness? Allah said, your job is to call, and my job is to bring people. And you know how many people go there throughout the year. The foundation of Makkah is the sacrifice of all three. The establishment of Islam down the centuries is based on sacrifices. The Qurbani of all the Nabis, alayhi salam. The foundation of the final version of Islam that came to us from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also sacrifice. The unbelievable and unrivaled sacrifices of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions for 23 years. And the sacrifices of his companions, untold sacrifices during his lifetime and afterwards, and the sacrifices of those who saw him, called tabi'in, and the sacrifices of those who saw the tabi'in, the tabi'in, and later Muslims. Islam flourished and Muslims dominated when believers sacrificed to live up to the demands of the kalima. Why isn't Islam flourishing today? Where is the sacrifice that is needed to establish Islam? It has to be established juge, down the ages. And I wonder if you can see it, make it bigger. The Muslim empire as of 750 AD, the dark brown under Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then and the Khulafai Rashidin, and the light brown under the Umayyads, who followed Khulafai Rashidin, starting with Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. On the left you see, and on the right you see, and the yellow part was added under the Abbasids, 750 AD. Abbasids continued until 1258 AD. And look on the leftmost yellow part, Portugal. Can you see that? In Spain, on the upper part. Down below is Morocco. The what do you call that? The western, northwest of Africa. And look to your right. Can you see Pakistan? Most of Pakistan. And from east to west, 6,000 miles, 10,000 kilometers. From north to south, 3,000-4,000 kilometers. How many countries? Present day countries, I counted, I wrote them down. 39, let's say 40. 40 countries. 10,000 kilometers east to west, about 4,000 kilometers north to south. One of the largest empires. And the gradual domination over Muslims is something else before that. Something else. The The gradual domination over Muslims, majority countries by non-Muslims, is tied to disobedience of Allah Ta'ala. Disobedience of Allah Ta'ala. And I have proved that through various verses of the Quran and from Ahadith, and I took a number of halakas on this. When the genocide in Gaza, the latest version of genocide in Gaza started after October 7, number of halakas, Quran and Hadith, Quran and Hadith, Quran and Hadith. Why Muslims are in the condition that we are in, why Muslim blood is cheaper than water. The gradual domination over Muslims and Muslim majority countries by non-Muslims is tied to disobedience of Allah Ta'ala, which in turn is tied to their diminishment of Iman. In one verse, Allah Ta'ala says, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wa'adallahu alladhina amanu minkum wa amilu salihati la yastakhlifannahum fil ardi." I will give you khilafat. Allah promises. To whom? Promise to those who have believed, Iman, firm belief among Muslims, and done righteous deeds, that He will surely grant them succession, domination, authority, vicegerency, make them representatives, His representatives upon the earth, not just in terms of territory. Muslims dominated for 1,000 years, close to, in terms of all branches of knowledge, worldly knowledge, secular knowledge, and religious knowledge, and territory, and way of life, and examples, beautiful examples, showing people how to be saved from the fire of Jahannam and enter Jannah. Domination in all aspects. We are actually talking about Muslim rule. From there we came to Hajj, and from there, Ramadan, and after Ramadan, protection. After Ramadan, we'll go back to Muslim rule. We're talking about Muslim rule. And we covered, actually, in terms of Muslim rule, we were talking about, and those of you who have been regular, we have been talking about Muslim domination in terms of knowledge, secular, so-called secular knowledge, science and literature and arts and humanities and medicine and technology and so on and so forth. I've covered most of it. I'm down to medicine, contribution in terms of medicine. That is also covered basically. I'll talk about the building up of hospitals, establishment of hospitals, and Bimaristan. You understand Bimar, sick, Bimaristan. Later came to be hospitals. Muslims developed. Pharmacies, Muslims developed. And then I'm supposed to talk about inventions, Muslim inventions. 1001 inventions. There was an exhibition in England. Inventions. So I have to go back to that. What happened to that accession to power, vicegerency, which Muslims once enjoyed for 1,000 years? Why did they enjoy in the past, and why are they dominated for the last few centuries? It is tied to our level of belief, certitude in the oneness of Allah. In Arabic, it is called yaqeen. In Bengali, that has become ekin. Certitude. If we had that certitude, none who would disobey Allah. You don't need certitude, actually. Strong Iman would suffice. Nobody would disobey Allah Ta'ala. Nobody has the guts to disobey the police. People fear cockroaches. Arshula ke bhai pai. Napoleon feared cats. His adjutant one day was outside his tent in a battlefield. And the adjutant heard sound inside the tent of the emperor in the battlefield. He went inside. There might be some urgent emergency. And he saw the emperor standing on his bed with the sword in his hand, and in front of him was a cat. He's afraid of cats. We are afraid of tigers and lions and snakes, but not the Creator. So it is tied to our level of belief, the certitude in the oneness of Allah and righteous deeds as prescribed by Allah. I went through many halakas on this aspect. It cannot be that we obey a just worldly emperor and he will let us down. Now, if you have a just worldly emperor, just, and you obey him to all your heart and soul, you give to him at his feet, oh majesty, I'm at your service. It cannot be that he will let us down. How can it be in the case of the real and lasting and unbounded and limitless and real sovereign? How can he let us down? As a nation and as individuals, we surrender to him. That surrender is not there. Let us face it squarely. Let us accept it. Let us see our life. Let us examine our life. Let us take our hisab before he takes our hisab. Accountability. And then we will realize how much we surrender to his sacrifice, to his commands. Qurbani. It's not goat and cow and the money. It's sacrificing the animal inside us. That's the significance of Qurbani, or the basic animalistic instincts that we have in obeying the Allah. If our animalistic instincts become a barrier, we sacrifice those instincts and obey Allah under all circumstances. At least we make the intention to enter into Islam completely. As Allah says, udkhulu fis silmi kaffa. Enter into Islam completely. And another place he says, fear Allah as he should be feared. Uttaqullaha haqqan tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Fear Allah as he should be feared, and do not enter the grave without submitting to Islam, without submitting to Allah. Let us make that intention. We will, every day we will move towards that after making the intention. And we seek tawfiq, ability from Allah, that we can enter into Islam completely before death. We never know when death will overtake us. And learn deen. For that, the first thing that we need is to learn deen. We think we know deen because we know so much about the world. We know Islam also. We don't give medical we don't make medical pronouncements because we are not doctors. We don't make legal pronouncements. We are not lawyers. But we make, and again, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Muslims in general. We make religious pronouncements without knowing religion, without having spent time to learn knowledge, to acquire knowledge. And we have to convey also to others. So let us make the intention first. নিয়ত নাই তো কোত্থেকে আমরা ইসলামের মধ্যে প্রবেশ করব পুরোপুরি ভাবে, এবং কিভাবে আমরা মুসলমান হিসাবে মুসলমান না হয়ে কবরে না যাব। আমাদের যে মতিগতি এবং যে জীবনধারা, মনে হয় না যে may Allah protect us. He does not want to make sacrifices. He does not want us to make sacrifices or Qurbani nowhere near the level of Ibrahim alayhi salam and his family. And here is the most important part of my presentation. And I'm sorry, I will take a little extra time. I wish I found this set of slides before last week. Our Qurbani will be sacrifice of sleep and conveniences to pray 5 times, the obligatory prayers, to sacrifice food during daylight in the month of Ramadan, and at other times, the optional fasting, to sacrifice a portion of our wealth for the poor, not just zakat, but beyond zakat, which will become sadaqah. To sacrifice time and wealth and comfort to perform Hajj and Umrah. To sacrifice with let me make the point, with uh, halal earnings. To sacrifice haram food and enjoy halal food. To sacrifice haram drinks and enjoy halal drinks. Our Qurbani will be to sacrifice illicit sex and enjoy halal sex with spouses. To sacrifice haram earnings and enjoy the fruits of halal earnings. To sacrifice falsehood and embrace truth at all cost. To sacrifice dishonesty and embrace honesty at all cost. To sacrifice injustice and establish justice, even if that goes against us, our parents, and relatives, for Allah's sake. And I quote the complete verse. O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even though it be against yourselves or your parents or your kin, be he rich or poor. There's some part I left out. So follow not the lusts. Sacrifice your lusts, nafsaniyat, of your hearts, lest you keep away from justice. If you twist or turn away from the truth, know that Allah is well aware and all that you do. Stand up for justice, even if it is against yourself. Be witness, even if it is against yourself, your parents, your relatives. Is that Islam? Where do we find it? Not acknowledging the bounties and blessings of Allah and bowing down to His might and majesty and rububiyat, or lordship, is the greatest of injustices that Muslims carry out. Qurbani, or sacrifices for the sake of truthfulness, honesty, and establishing justice. And as the best of nations, we have the prophetic responsibility of calling people towards the good and stopping them from evil doing. Surah Al-Imran. You are the best of nations. And for discharging that responsibility, we need to inculcate and display prophetic qualities. And some of those qualities we were talking about even last week. Forbearance is what we were talking about. Today I was supposed to talk about what was that? Tawakkul and trust and humility, prophetic qualities that will enable us to make Qurbani, meet responsibilities towards Allah and meet responsibilities towards fellow human beings. The point I just short while ago made is we have to know Deen, seek knowledge. Rabbi Zidni Ilma was our motto. Obey Deen and convey Deen. In Surah Saf, Allah Ta'ala says Allah Ta'ala goads us to a transaction that will save us from a grievous torment. We not only have to believe and do righteous deeds, we have to strive in the cause of Allah with our wealth and our lives, sacrifices that are needed to establish Deen. I'm actually paraphrasing in my words. From Surah Saf, verses 10 through 13. He promises forgiveness, deliverance from the fire, splendid mansions in Jannah, below which rivers flow, his help in dunya, and imminent victory against enemies. Surah Saf. It is a small price to pay for few days of this life and peace and success in this life, in lieu of the price that we pay in obeying Allah, Qurbani that we make. It's a small price. It's just a couple of days. My 70 plus years is just like a couple of days. And what is the benefit? If I can obey Allah Ta'ala for 2 days of this life, or we can obey for 2 days of this life, He will fulfill our desires forever and forever. Eternal salvation and unbounded enjoyment in Jannah. And do we have any option? Because ignorance might say yes, but fire is not an option. Try to put your finger in fire for, I used to say previously 3 seconds. Now I say 1 second because I could not put my finger in the fire for 1 second. And that fire of Jahannam is 70 times hotter. Allah knows how many times hotter. These numbers are used just to give us an idea that it's many, many times hotter. In Surah Tawbah, Allah has said that He has indeed purchased from the believers their lives and wealth in exchange for paradise, which means our life and wealth is not ours if we have sold it. And when we have sold it, we have to do as He says. That means surrender and do as He says. But if we do as we wish or as Shaitan wishes, we follow his whisperings or the whisperings of evil people or the fatal attraction of dunya, then we haven't sold. And we cannot expect Jannah. Allah Ta'ala loved Qurbani of Ibrahim alayhi salam so much that He ordered us to celebrate that Qurbani and get lesson from us. What else He cherishes? Not just slaughtering and eating meat, but value the lesson of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Sacrifice your wealth and your lives, your conveniences to uphold the deen of Allah. The day of Qurbani is the greatest day to Him, and sacrifice the animal inside us. Allah Ta'ala basically prescribed the rites of Hajj from the sacrifices of Ibrahim alayhi salam and his family, so that Muslims can learn, inculcate Tawheed, oneness of Allah, and the spirit of sacrifice to live up to the commandments of Allah Ta'ala and get peace and success. So in Surah Kawthar, where does Qurbani come from? The second verse of Surah Kawthar. Fasalli li rabbika wanhar. So pray and make sacrifice. Wanhar. Qurbani. This ayat came to my mind. So I will end with this ayat. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's Surah Tawbah, verse number 24. If your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your wives, and relatives, up to this part, is people with whom we are related. Your wealth, which you have obtained, commerce, wherein you fear decline, and dwellings with which you are pleased. This is our material wealth. Wealth, commerce, dwellings, with which you are pleased, are more beloved to you than Allah and His Messenger, and jihad, striving in His cause. Then wait until Allah executes His command. Wait for His punishment. Allah does not guide the defiantly disobedient people. In other words, if people and dunya are more beloved to you than Allah and His Rasul and striving in His path, then wait. He's talking about Qurbani for the sake of Allah. These things. It's not that we will not have relationship with our near and dear ones. No, but Allah should be uppermost. It's not that we should not pursue dunya. We need to use dunya. We need to use dunya, not that dunya uses us. We need dunya to survive, but not become slave of dunya, or slave of shaitan, or slave of our ego and our desires. If we are not slave of Allah, then we are slaves of the other things. So what is Islam? Conclusion. Islam, then there are various definitions, and I like this one the most. Very simple, straightforward. Way of life exemplified by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So know his life and follow his life. All the obligatory are there, the wajibat are there, the sunnah are there, the nawafil are there. And that's the way that suits our fitra, which means our nature, our inclination. Dunya has become easy for us. Why? Because we have become used to it. From our childhood, we have been trained to follow our life in a certain manner, which is away from what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us. But the way that he showed us suits our nature. It's just that we are not used to it. And the way of life that we follow has made our life very difficult. And there's no peace in that. It's much easier to get Allah than to get dunya. It's much easier. We spend all our waking hours in acquiring dunya, and we are never pleased. It's much easier to get Allah, and thereby you can also get peace and blessings. Now we are deprived of peace and blessings. I'm shortening. And what we acquire stays where it is supposed to stay, in dunya. And whatever Farooq Amin acquired, that stays behind. Whatever Mannaf acquired, that stayed behind. Mannaf possibly was the first to die amongst us. He was a freedom fighter, the very early stage. And whatever Mustafizur Rahman, cadet number 12, acquired, stayed behind. He was a captain when he was killed, presumably. His body was never found. In 1974, during the Sepoy mutiny 74, 75, in that period. And whatever the others, Major Bazlur Rashid, Firdaus Alam, Major Shahidul Islam, Major Shah Zakaria, Ali Hassan, Lieutenant Colonel Ali Hassan, and lately Farooq Amin, whatever they acquired, these are 9 from my batch. Everything stayed behind. What went with them? Their deeds. Good deeds in good form, beautiful form, and bad deeds in hideous form. May Allah forgive all of them. If we don't obey Allah, what will we be doing? We'll be obeying shaitan. We will be obeying the whisperings of evil people. We will be obeying our baser instincts, animalistic instincts. We will be slave of dunya. We have 2 choices. In all of this, it is slavery of shaitan. Whispering of people, shaitan is from shaitan. And shaitan uses our baser instincts. And shaitan uses dunya to enslave us. And there is no goodness in any one of them, other than bring our destruction. There's goodness only in what Allah says. I could elaborate on that, but I won't, for the sake of time. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, jazallahu anna sallallahu. In 950 years, Nuh alayhi salam would bring, or should I say, Allah Ta'ala gave hidayat to only 83 to 85, or 82 to 85 people. 950 years. Every 12 years, one person. We pray for Amin. We recite Surah Fatiha and Surah Ikhlas 3 times. And by the way, we have gone through an obligatory exercise. Obligatory. The reward of that is something we just cannot describe. So we will convey the blessings we'll implore Allah Ta'ala to convey the blessings from our whatever we did to Farooq Amin and to all our near and dear ones who passed away. We'll pray for all deceased from our relatives and from our fraternity and the larger fraternity of cadet colleges. Pray for those who are in need of prayers from our relatives, ourselves, our relatives and fraternity. We pray first and foremost for those who are attendees, Amir Hussain. Most of these are brothers with some illnesses or sisters with some illnesses, except Tanim Hassan. He has some legal problems. He has again asked for prayers from all of you. And we used to pray for Farooq Amin. I used to utter the name of Farooq Amin at this point. After Amir Hussain, I used to utter the name of Farooq Amin. Farooq Amin. And evidently, because I indicated that the dua will start around 10:45 Bangladesh time. So we have, the number has jumped up a little bit. I invited the daughters of Farooq Amin and his sister with whom he spent his last days, Dr. Rokia, his daughters, Shayan and Sanam. Sanam is the oldest one. And hopefully I can see they are here. I hope Rokia is also here. She's a doctor. I know her very well, and hope some of our friends will join from my batch. Sanam is here. I can see Sanam, and Amir Hussain is here, and Badrul is here. And after the dua, I will say some words, and then whoever wants to speak, please raise your hands, and later on, and then we will pray. So I used to mention Farooq Amin at this point, and we'll pray for him, inshallah. And then I used to mention Tanim Hassan. And in general, we mention everybody. We invoke everybody's name who are in need of prayers. And my mentioning names or my not mentioning names does not matter at all in the esteem of Allah Ta'ala. He is all-knowing, and so He knows who needs prayers. Mrs. Lutfi Ayub, 2nd batch. SM Ilyas, 4th batch. Abul Barkat, 6th batch. Panna, 6th batch. Mrs. Mahfuz Reza, 6th batch. Muhammad Habibur Rahman, 9th batch. Maruf from 11th batch. And Colonel Abdul Rauf from 13th batch. Mrs. Aftab, 14th batch. Farooq, 15th batch. Major Salim Ershad Shena, 19th batch. They have various forms of illnesses. Amirul Faisal, 19th batch. Naimur Rahman, 46th batch. Mr. Muhammad Khairu Zaman, father-in-law of Saif from 19th batch. Mr. Muhammad Ali Reza, father of Abir from 28th batch. And Bachu, 5th batch. Dr. Halimur Rashid Khan, 5th batch. Shuja's son Fauzan, Raju's son Saleh, Muqim's son Salsabil. Shuja is from 12th batch, Raju from 11th batch, Muqim from 13th batch, and the son of Hanif from 27th batch. These are next generation orphans who are differently abled. Some people use the term disabled. We like to use the term differently abled. And anybody else who are in need of prayers, Allah knows that. And I just want to make 2 points, which is that from the 9th of Dhul Hajj, the month of Hajj, from the 9th Fajr until the 13th Asr time, reciting after each prayer, Fard prayer, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallahu, Wallahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahil Hamd. Reciting once is wajib, obligatory. Reciting 3 times after each prayer is sunnah. From the 9th Fajr to 13th Asr. And then Qurbani, we have talked about the significance of Qurbani. Qurbani, 1 per family is good enough. It doesn't have to be 1 per person in each family. No, it doesn't have to be. If you can, it's well and good. If not, don't worry. If you cannot give Qurbani at all, you don't have the means, don't worry. And the niyat, in our countries, subcontinent, that has been couched in a different manner. But I got one hadith from Muslim, another from Tirmizi, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made this niyat, intention. Bismillah, oh Allah, accept it from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from Muhammad's family, 1 Qurbani, 1 ram. Muhammad's family, and the Ummah of Muhammad. That was his intention, Muslim, Sahih Muslim. And in Tirmizi, it comes from Jabir bin Abdullah radiallahu anhu. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made the intention, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. In the previous one, Allahu Akbar is not there. Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. This is from me. This is from me and from those of my ummah who cannot make Qurbani. I request that each one of us recite Surah Fatiha once and Surah Ikhlas 3 times, and then we will hold the remembrance session. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Prayer and then remembrance session. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Reciting Surah Ikhlas 3 times is like reciting, getting the reward of the whole Quran. And Surah Fatiha is equivalent to 2/3 of the Quran. And this obligatory knowledge, acquisition of knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. Allah knows the reward of that. So we will, and collectively, we will convey the rewards of all our actions and deeds, individual deeds, collective deeds, and whatever the near and dear ones of Farooq Amin have been able to recite collectively. We will implore Allah Ta'ala, beseech Allah Ta'ala to convey to the soul of Farooq Amin and all our near and dear ones. Allahumma Ameen, Allahumma. لا إله إلا الله العليم الكريم سبحان الله رب العرش العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين. أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفراتك وغنيمة من كل بر وسلامة من كل إثم. لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا مجاهدا إلا نصرته ولا مظلوما إلا نصرته ولا مسلما إلا رحمته ولا حاجة هي لك رضا إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Wallah, we ask of you whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked of you, and we seek refuge in you, whatever he sought refuge in you from. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Wallah, give us the best of this world and the hereafter. Allahumma inna as'aluka al-afiyah. Allahumma inna as'aluka al-afiyah. Allahumma inna as'aluka al-afiyah. O Allah, grant us, O Allah, grant us all that is good and beautiful. Allahumma gfir li ummat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allahumma arham ummat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allahumma hafaz ummat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allahumma ahdi ummat Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واهد الناس جميعا. اللهم اغفر لي ولوالدنا وجميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك موجب الدعوات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الظالمين أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم المنافقين ربنا إننا سمعنا منادي أينا دين الإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث يا ذو الجلال والإكرام या फातिर समावाति वल अर्द अंत वली फिद दुनिया वल आखिरा হে পাক পরওয়ারদিগার তুমি অশেষ মেহেরবানি করে আমাদের এই তৌফিক দিয়েছো আল্লাহ আমাদের জন্য সুযোগ করে দিয়েছো একত্রিত হওয়ার আল্লাহ এবং আমাদেরকে তৌফিক দিয়েছো তোমার সামনে হাত উঠাবার আল্লাহ তোমার সামনে দাঁড়াবার যোগ্যতা রাখি না আমরা আল্লাহ তোমার সামনে হাত উঠাবার যোগ্যতা রাখি না একটা অপবিত্র পানির থেকে আমাদের সৃষ্টি আল্লাহ এবং তুমি অশেষ মেহেরবানি করে আমাদেরকে তোমার সামনে সমবেত হওয়ার তৌফিক দিয়েছো আল্লাহ তুমি আমাদের আমরা গুনায় ভরা তোমার সামনে কিভাবে আমরা হাত উঠাই এটা তোমার মেহেরবানি ছাড়া কেমন করে হয় আল্লাহ তুমি যখন হাত উঠাবার তৌফিক দিয়েছো আল্লাহ তুমি আমাদের সমস্ত গুনাহ খাতা মাফ করে দিও আল্লাহ এবং আমরা যা কিছু আমল করতে পেরেছি ব্যক্তিগতভাবে এবং সমষ্টিগতভাবে যা কিছু বলার ও শোনার এবং তেলাওয়াত করার তৌফিক পেয়েছি আল্লাহ তোমার শাহী দরবারে কবুল করে নিও আল্লাহ হে পাক পরবর্তীকার তোমার শাহী দরবারে কবুল করে নিও আল্লাহ আমাদের সমস্ত গুনাহ খাতা মাফ করে দিও এবং কবুল করে নিও আল্লাহ এবং আমাদেরকে ভবিষ্যতে গুনাহ থেকে দূরে রেখো যেমন পূর্ব থেকে পশ্চিম তুমি দূরে রাখো তোমার দ্বীনের মধ্যে তোমার দ্বীন জানার তৌফিক দান করো আল্লাহ পুরা দ্বীনে প্রবেশ করার নিয়ত করার তৌফিক দান করো আল্লাহ ধীরে ধীরে প্রবেশ করার তৌফিক দান করো প্রত্যেকটা আমল যেন আগের থেকে আগের আমলের থেকে আগের নামাজের থেকে আরো সুন্দর করতে পারি প্রতিটা দিন প্রতিটা সময় যেন আমরা আরো এগিয়ে যেতে পারি পুরা দিনের দিকে কমপক্ষে নিয়ত করার তৌফিক তো দাও আল্লাহ উন্নতি করার তৌফিক তো দাও সেই পথে চলার তৌফিক দান করো যেই রাস্তা জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসে গিয়েছে আল্লাহ দিন শিক্ষা করার তৌফিক তো দান করো আল্লাহ আমি নামাজ পড়ি বলে তো আমরা বসে থাকি তো একই নামাজ যেই নামাজ 20 বছর 10 বছর আগে পড়তাম কোনো উন্নতি নাই জীবন আগের মতো নবীর তোমার হুকুম নবীর সুন্নত ইখলাসে নিয়ত বিশুদ্ধ নিয়ত কোনো খবর নাই আল্লাহ দুনিয়া নিয়ে মত কবুল করো আল্লাহ কবুল করো আমরা বহুত দূরে তোমার নবীর সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি সাল্লামের জামানাত থেকে 1450 বছর দূরে আমাদের প্রতি দয়া করো আল্লাহ কত কিছু দিয়ে আমরা ঘিরে আছি বিভিন্ন শত্রু তার থেকে রক্ষা করো শয়তান নফসের তাড়না মানুষের কুমন্ত্রণা দুনিয়ার মারাত্মক আকর্ষণ এক মুহূর্ত ছেড়ে দিও না আল্লাহ তোমার সন্তুষ্টি অর্জনের আগে যেন পৃথিবী থেকে না যাই একটা মাত্র জীবন যেন ধ্বংস না হয় আল্লাহ উত্তম দিনে উত্তম ক্ষণে উত্তম স্থানে যেন আমরা আমাদের রূহ ছেড়ে যেতে যায় যখন তুমি সন্তুষ্ট কলেমা সহ শয়তানের শেষ চেষ্টা ব্যর্থ করে দিয়ে যখন তুমি গর্বিত আমাদের সম্বন্ধে, তখন যেন যাই আল্লাহ, কবুল করে নিও আল্লাহ। রহমতের দ্বারা আমাদের ঘিরে রেখো, রহমত, মাগফিরাত, হেফাজত, হেদায়েতের চাদরে আমাদের আবৃত রেখো। আমাদের সন্তান সন্ততি যারা কিয়ামত পর্যন্ত আসবে তাদেরকে আবৃত রেখো, সমস্ত মুসলমানকে আবৃত রেখো, এবং যারা কিয়ামত পর্যন্ত আসবে তাদেরকে আবৃত রেখো, এবং সমস্ত মানুষকে হেদায়েত দিও আল্লাহ। এবং যারা আমাদের ধ্বংস করছে আল্লাহ, তুমি তাদের কপালে যদি হেদায়েত না থাকে তাদের ধ্বংস করে দিও আমাদের ধ্বংস করার আগে আল্লাহ। যদি হেদায়েত না থাকে তাদের কপালে, ধ্বংস করে দিও আল্লাহ। আমাদের হেফাজত করো আল্লাহ। আমাদের পূর্বের দিনে আমাদের ফিরিয়ে নিও, ঈমান ও আমলের মজবুতি দান করো আল্লাহ। হে আল্লাহ, যা কিছু আমরা আমল করতে পেরেছি সমস্ত কিছুর সওয়াব তোমার শাহী দরবারে কবুল করে তার সওয়াব রাসূল করিম সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামের রূহ মুবারকের কাছে পৌঁছে দিয়ে, তার সওয়াব পৌঁছে দিও ফারুক আমিনের রূহের কাছে। তার গুনাহ খাতা মাফ করে দিও, তার কবরকে প্রশস্ত করে দিও, কবরকে নূর দিয়ে পরিপূর্ণ করে দিও, কবরকে জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসের বাগান বানিয়ে দিও, এবং তার সওয়াব পৌঁছে দিও আমাদের আপনজন, প্রিয়জন, নিকটজন, আমাদের বন্ধু বান্ধব, আমাদের শিক্ষক, আমাদের কর্মকর্তা, আমাদের স্টাফ, আত্মীয় স্বজন, পিতা মাতা, দাদা দাদি, নানা নানি, পূর্বপুরুষ, মুরব্বিয়ানরা তথা সমস্ত মুসলমানের কাছে পৌঁছে দিও। সবার কবরের আযাব মাফ করে দিও, কবরকে প্রশস্ত করে দিও, কবরকে নূর দিয়ে পরিপূর্ণ করে দিও, কবরকে জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসের বাগান বানিয়ে দিও। একদিন আমরাও ওই আমাদের কবরে যাব, প্রবেশ করবো আল্লাহ। এরকম না যে তারা গিয়েছে আমরা থেকে যাব, আমরাও যাব, যেন আমরা মিলিত হতে পারি আল্লাহ, জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসে মিলিত হতে পারি সবাই আপনজন সহ। আমাদের কবরকেও তুমি জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসের বাগান বানিয়ে দিও, সর্বোত্তম ব্যবহার দেখিও। এবং কিয়ামতের মাঠে আপনজন সহ আমরা যখন উঠব সেই উত্তপ্ত, অসহনীয়, অবর্ণনীয় দিনে, তোমার ছায়া ছাড়া আর কোনো ছায়া থাকবে না। তোমার ছায়া আমাদের ঠাঁই দিও আল্লাহ, একটুখানি ঠাঁই দিও, এবং আমাদের দুশ্চিন্তা দূর করে দিও, হিসাব সহজ করে দিও, আমলনামা ডান হাতে দিও। মিজান যখন বসানো হবে, দাড়ি পাল্লা, নেকির পাল্লা ভারী করো আল্লাহ। পুলসিরাত যখন পাড়ি দিতে হবে, আপনজন প্রিয়জন সহ চোখের পলকে পার করিয়ে দিও আল্লাহ, এবং বিনা হিসাবে জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসে দাখিল করো, যাতে করে আপনজন প্রিয়জনের সাথে তোমার আতিথেয়তায় রাসূলুল্লাহ সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামের সান্নিধ্যে আমরা চিরকাল বাস করতে পারি আল্লাহ। তাই বলেছিলাম, যেই পথ জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসের দিকে গিয়েছে সেই পথে আমাদের অধিষ্ঠিত রেখো আল্লাহ। হে পাক পরওয়ারদিগার, তুমি কবুল করো আমাদেরকে, এবং যত মানুষ কষ্টের মধ্যে আছে, অভাব অনটনে, অন্নহারা, বস্ত্রহারা, গৃহহারা, দিশাহারা, পথহারা, কন্যাদায়গ্রস্ত, ঋণগ্রস্ত, অভাবগ্রস্ত, জুলুমগ্রস্ত পৃথিবীতে, সবার সমস্যার সমাধান তোমার কাছে। তুমি সমস্যার সমাধান করে দিও, আমাদের মনের নেক হাজত পুরা করে দিও, যদি তা পৃথিবীর জন্য মঙ্গলজনক হয়, আর যদি না হয় তার বদলা আখিরাতে দিও। আমাদের বিপদ আপদ দূর করে দিও, মনের গ্লানি দুশ্চিন্তা দূর করে দিও, বিশেষ করে ফারুক আমিনের কন্যারা, তার আত্মীয় স্বজনরা, বোনেরা, তাদের শক্তি যুগীয়, তাদের ধৈর্য দান করো আল্লাহ, হেদায়েত করো, হেফাজত করো, রহমত করো, মাগফিরাত করো। আমাদের মধ্যে যারাই আছে ভগ্ন হৃদয়, সবাইকে হেদায়েত করো, রহমত করো, মাগফিরাত করো, হেফাজত করো আল্লাহ। আমরা সবাই ভগ্ন হৃদয় আল্লাহ। তোমার শান মতো তো চাওয়ার ক্ষমতা আমার নাই আল্লাহ। আল্লাহ, তোমার শান মতো চাওয়ার ক্ষমতা নাই, তোমার শান মতো দান করো। তোমার শান মতো হেফাজত চাওয়ার ক্ষমতা নাই আল্লাহ, তোমার শান মতো হেফাজত করো আল্লাহ। হে পাক পরবর্তীকার, اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب يا كاظم الحاجات يا رافع الدرجات يا حلال المشكلات يا موجب الدعوات برحمتك نستغيث يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا أكرم الأكرمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا راحم المساكين يا ذي القوة المتين ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وحمد لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم آمين يا رب العالمين